In lesson 3-2, we'll be solving addition and subtraction equations. In looking at our examples below, we have that we talk about the equality rule. So we know that 6 equals 6. But what happens when you subtract 2 on both sides of the equation? Well, what we're left is 4 equals 4. So what that tells us is as long as we do one thing to one side of the equation, we have to do it to the other, and our sentence will remain true. So looking over here at an algebra problem, we have a variable x plus 2 equal to 6. So our goal here is to get our x by itself. And so to do that, we'll need to subtract 2 on both sides of the equation, and we'll be able to bring x straight down, and we have a positive 2 and a negative 2, and that'll actually equal 0, so we don't need to bring anything down. And 6 minus 2 is 4. So what we have left is x equals 4. And now we can plug that solution back into our equation, say 4 plus 2 equals 6. And that is true. So that's one way to check our solutions. So for our first example, we have 14 plus y equals 20. Okay, so as I kind of said before, we need to keep our equations balanced. I like to think of a teeter-totter. Okay, so we know that when we have a teeter-totter, this middle point or fulcrum point, we kind of think of that as our equal sign in our equations. Okay, and so we need this side to be equal to this side in order to keep our teeter-totter flat and level. So right now in our equation, we have 14 plus y on that side of the teeter-totter, and we have 20 on this side, with the equals being right in the middle. And so what we need to do is we want to find what is y. What is the variable y equal to? So we need to somehow get rid of this 14 and move it over here so that way we know what y is. So this is how we're going to do this with our steps in tonight's homework. We have a positive 14. To get rid of a positive 14, we're going to have a negative 14 right below it, so it cancels it out. Now remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Otherwise, our teeter-totter or our equation will not remain equal. So we also need a negative 14 on this side. Now please notice how I'm keeping everything lined up. So the negative 14 goes directly below the 14, and the negative 14 here goes directly below the 20. Now I'm going to draw my line, because just like when I do an addition or subtraction problem, I have this line that I draw so that way I know I'm answering a problem. Well, 14 minus 14 is 0, so I don't need to write a 0 down here. But I will bring my y, my variable, straight down, because we didn't do anything to the y. I will bring my equal sign straight down, and now I will solve this part of the problem. 20 minus 14 is a positive 6. So what we found is that y equals 6. Now what we'll do is we'll put the solution for y into the equation. We can do this mentally. We can check our solution mentally. So 14 plus 6 does equal 20. So that means that it works, and we're done with our problem. Y equals 6 would be our answer. Now for your homework, you're going to want to copy the equation, and then you're going to want to show your work on the next line, and then you're going to solve it on the third line. So if you're doing this in your homework, you're going to use 3 lines in your notebook page. For the next example, okay, again, we always want to focus on the side with the variable. So in this case, our variable is on the right-hand side. So only look over here. I know right away you're going to want to see this, and okay, what do we do with the negative 6? But the first thing we focus on is just the side of the equation with the variable. Because remember, our goal is to get the variable by itself. So right now we have a positive 4 with the variable, so we want to put a negative 4 over there directly below. And now we can look at the other side, because remember the teeter-totter. Whatever you want to do to one side, you have to do to the other. So we also need a negative 4 over there. Now we draw our line all the way across. We bring our variable down. We bring our equal sign down. 4 minus 4 is 0. We can circle that if we want. Now, we think about our integer words. I owe 6 and I owe 4. So I know that I'm going to owe money. You owe one person $6 and you owe another person $4. So overall, we owe 10. So x equals negative 10 is our solution. Again, you'll want to go ahead and plug that in, and we can do some mental math or use your calculator to check it. And if I owe $10 and I have $4, that's going to mean that I owe $6 after I pay off my 4. So another addition equation, a plus 7 equals 6. Again, I don't want to look at the 6, okay? You just need to look at the side with the variable, a plus 7. How do I get a by itself? Well, I need to get rid of that positive 7. So we're going to subtract 7 on both sides. Okay, bring your variable down. And notice how I'm bringing it straight down. So even though my equal sign is going to be over here, and we kind of have a gap. We have a gap right here. Go ahead and leave that gap there. It's really important that we keep everything organized and everything straight down from where it should be. Okay, a positive 7 and a negative 7 equals 0. And if you have 6, like if it's money, you have $6, but you owe $7, you're still going to owe $1. So a equals negative 1. Now, if you wanted to clean this up a little bit, you could rewrite it and write the a next to the equal sign. A equals negative 1. But when we're working it out, we're going to want to keep that space there just so we can keep everything lined up. So a equals negative 1 is our answer, and you can do some mental math to check. If I owe 1 and have 7, that means I have 6. Yep, it worked. So m plus 9 equals 22. Again, just focus on the side with the variable. Always find your variable and look at what's happening to the variable. So we need a negative 9 to get rid of that positive 9. And make sure whatever you do to one side, you always do to the other. Draw your line all the way across. Notice I'm including the line all the way to the edge of my equation. Bring your variable down. Bring your equal sign down. Okay, and then if I have 22 and I owe 9, all right, so I can borrow or trade this tens to make it 1 10 and 12 ones. I know I'm going to have 13 left. Okay, and this ended up being 0, and I can write that. So if I wanted to clean up this space, I can write m equals 13. And of course, you're always going to want to check it. 13 plus 9, you can either do that mentally or with a calculator, is 22, and so that works. Okay, now we're going to have to use what we learned in lesson 3-1, and we're going to have to write an equation, and then we'll solve it. So a grapefruit weighs 11 ounces, which is 6 ounces more than an apple. So how much does the apple weigh? All right, well, let's think about all of our words that we learned about yesterday. So right here it says 11 ounces, so I'm going to write my 11. Then I see the word is, and remember yesterday, is told us to write the equal sign. And then it says 6, so we'll write a 6. More tells us that we're adding. Then tells us we need to flip the order of our equation, and apple, so I can use the letter A. So now I'm going to want to rewrite this because I do see that I have a flip it sign. So 11 equals A plus 6. Notice I changed the order. I put the 6 at the end and the A at the beginning because of the word then. Then tells us to flip the order of our equations. Now, they want to know how much the apple actually weighs, so we need to subtract 6 on both sides. Again, focus on the side with the variable. We don't want to do anything with the 11. It's the A that we want to get by itself. So subtract 6 on both sides to keep that teeter-totter equal. Bring your A down. Okay, so A equals 5. Now, we're going to want to remember some units because this is a word problem. So we could rewrite it as A equals 5 and then ounces. and OZ is an abbreviation for ounces. And when we're writing a Z in math, we probably want to put that line in there so we can't mistake it with a 2. Another word problem. Cedric ran 17 miles this week, which is 9 more miles than he ran last week. How many miles did he run last week? So, again, the first number I see in the problem is a 17. So I can write 17. And then I see the word is. So I'm going to write an equal sign. And then it's 9 more, which is addition. Then, so we know we're going to flip it, more than he ran last week. So maybe I'm going to put a W for week, which represents last week. So now I'll rewrite it so I can get it in the right order. 17 equals W plus 9. And we know that the order really doesn't matter because we are adding, and addition is commutative. However, we want to get in the habit of writing it correctly. So now we'll get the W by itself by subtracting 9 on both sides. Bring your W down. And 17 minus 9 gives us 8. So we want to rewrite it. W equals 8 miles. And so we know that that represents how many miles he ran last week. So far we've been doing all addition problems. We can do the same thing with subtraction equations. So here we had an x minus 2, so all we need to do is add 2 to both sides, because remember, the idea is we want to make this a 0 and kind of cancel it out. So it's basically saying the same thing here, is that with your teeter-totter, you can add things to both sides, or you can subtract things from both sides. As long as you do the same amount to both sides, it will stay equal, right in the middle. So we have an example here. So Z minus 8. Again, I'm focusing over here first right away because the 12, we don't have a variable over there. So everything, all of our attention is right here. So since I have a negative 8, and remember we can make this adding a negative 8, to get rid of a negative 8, we are going to need a positive 8. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Think of your teeter-totter. Okay, so bring your variable down. And since this is a Z, I'm going to add my line in the middle so it doesn't look like a 2. And a negative 8 and a positive 8 are a 0. They cancel. So that leaves us with just our Z. If I have 12 and I have 8, I have 20, and that's my answer. Of course, you're going to want to check it with either a calculator or doing mental math, but 20 minus 8 does give us 12. Vivian practiced the piano for 32 minutes. She practiced 11 minutes less than her brother. How long did her brother practice the piano? Well, the first number here is 32 minutes. So I'm going to write a 32. And she practiced 11 minutes less than her brother. So I'm going to say 32 equals 11. And I'm getting my numbers and everything right here. It says less, so we know we're subtracting. Then tells us we're going to have a flip it. And then her brother, so I'm going to use the letter B. Now I'll rewrite it so we can get it in the right order. 32 equals B minus 11. Now for this problem, you really are going to want to change the order here because subtraction is not commutative. Again, I want to focus on the side with the variable. We're going to need to add 11 to both sides. Bring your variable down. B equals 43. And so we're going to want to write B equals 43 minutes. All right, and that gets us to the end of our lesson. Go ahead and try your homework problems and let me know if you need any help.